Good morning, everyone. Yesterday we had a short discussion about domain and range. We look at some different kind of formats of function, and we analyze the domain and range for those functions, like what we saw in this slide. So today we are going to continue this discussion, but this time we are going to look at the graph of functions. So let's get started. So when you look at the graph, now I would like you to pause the video and also check the graph and think about the question, what would be the domain range for this function? And as I mentioned yesterday, domain is all about x and range is all about y. So while you're thinking about your answer, or you already put your answer on the paper, now let's compare your answer with mine. So when we look at the domain, since we know it's about the x, so that's why we actually look at the graph. We look at the graph from the left to the right. So let me write down here, from left to right. So the reason is it's like you are using a little bar, like a vertical bar here, scanning the graph from the left to right. And I noticed that there's a 2 arrow here. So that means the value is going to be extended forever. So that means there's every single x has a definition for this function. So that's why the domain is all real numbers. And now let's look at the range. So as we mentioned yesterday, range is about y. So this time we are looking at the graph we are scanning graph top to bottom. I'm going to look at the graph. Do we have like a very lowest number, or do we have highest number, or sometimes the graph stop there? So let's try. If I scan the graph, I see the top one is going forever because there's an arrow here. So that means for y, it can go forever for the top one. But if I go down to check the graph, and I'll notice that the y actually stop here. There's no any value after this one, after this value. So let's check what's the value here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This value is -4. So that means y is actually starting with -4 and go up forever. So that's why the range of this function is greater than or equal to -4. That means every single thing is going here. And also, there's another way to write it in a set notation, meaning range belongs to this set, and it's this. So that's, if you sometimes use this kind of notation, it basically meaning what is about y? Y is greater than -4. And for this one, sometimes we can put x belong. This is meaning belong in that symbol, and this meaning real number system. So this is just a notation, but it's actually the same idea here. Okay, so that's how do we analyze this one. Let's check another example. This time we're looking at the graph for this one. So I want you again pause the video here to check the function. What is domain and range for this function? So domain and range, whenever we analyze this, again we always check in the x, how the value changing from the. So you can think about this. Whenever you check the domain, you actually check in the graph from the left to right. And whenever you check the range, you're checking from top to bottom, like this direction. So let's check this one. So from the left to right, I notice that the graph starts, or you can say stop here, which is -4. And there's no value on the left side. So that means x is every single value greater than -4 from this one. So that's why I'm going to write x is greater than or equal to -4. Or I can also write as x is, this is just set notation, greater than -4. So for range, I'm going to check vertically for this graph. So I'm going to check from the very bottom, and also notice the same thing. The y is actually stop here and then goes forever for top. And some students might say, even this is arrow, but it seems that the graph is slowly, it's not getting bigger, but you have to understand the graph can go forever if we see the arrow here. So that means it even is slowly increasing, but it will go beyond infinite, like a very big number. So that's why we consider y is, so but what's the value for y here? So if you check the value for y, it starts with 0 because it's on the x-axis, starting with 0 and go forever. So that's why y greater than or equal to 0, or we can write as y greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so there's another thing I want to quickly remind you is this symbol. Is sometimes you will see infinity. So if I put something like this, or sometimes I write down as less than infinity, or less than infinity or greater than -4. Sometimes I put this one. This basically meaning x greater than -4 goes forever. So sometimes if you see the infinity, just very similar to the one like this. This is just, sometimes you will see this symbol, just remind you. And this actually equivalent as all real number. Just like when you look at a number line, it goes negative infinity here and goes positive infinity here. Okay, we have one more example here. So this time we're going to look at the graph, and I really want you to pause the video and check which one is going to be your answer. So when you look at the graph, pay special attention to the specific value where the graph stops, or you can say starts. So that will be the key for you to answer this. Once you finish choosing your answer, you can definitely continue watching the video to see if you have the same answer with mine. So again, when we check the domain, we look at the graph, this one, this direction, and when we look at the range, we look at this direction. So for the domain, I'll notice everything starts, or we say stop here. So I just need to check for x, this value is -1, -2, -3, -4. So that means, and then everything go to the right, meaning all possible x is greater than or equal to -4. And I only notice there's only one have this kind of value. So that's why this is definitely the answer. But we can also check the y part, the range part. And I mentioned for the range, we also observe the graph from the bottom to the top. And since graph stops here, so we check the value for this one is 0, 1, 2. So that means y starting with 2 and goes forever for that one. So that's why it's here. Okay, so that's why the answer is 2. I hope you also choose the right answer. And that's all I want to share with you today. If you have any questions, you can definitely email me. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope this video is helpful. See you soon, everyone.